Today I've got a nail file, a glass of water, and some seeds. Any guesses what I'm doing? I'm going to teach you how to scarify seeds, and I don't mean frighten them, in today's video. So let's get into it. Hey there, my name is Nicole Burke, and I'm the owner and founder of Rooted Garden and Gardenary Incorporated. And today I'm borrowed my daughter's nail file. She has much better nails than I do, so she actually has a reason to file her nails, not me. This is Tweezer Man, and why in the world do I have this in the garden? Well, today I'm gonna scarify my nasturtium seeds. I should have looked up why it's called Scarify. I hope I'm actually even saying that correctly. So to scarify a seed means to actually kind of start to break down the outer coat, the outer layer that's on the seed to protect it. So in the life cycle of a plant, what happens is as the plant comes to, say, the end of its cycle, it's grown from a seed into a shoot, into stems and leaves, and possibly even a flower and fruit, and finally created seeds at the end of its life cycle. Those seeds are meant to last throughout the entirety of the rest of the year and not sprout until the weather is optimal for the plant to grow again. So what's happened, all these plants are so amazing, they've created adaptations with their seeds to keep their seeds alive. And the more that you start to garden, the more you realize how many hundreds of different ways plants have adapted to save their seeds. It's really amazing. So hopefully we'll get to dive into more of that here on the Gardenary channel. So the one I want to talk about today is nasturtium. Nasturtiums are such a fun thing to grow in the garden. They produce these huge seeds that are so easy to see and so easy to plant. And I love growing nasturtiums, one, because they're beautiful, two, because they trail. And you know me, if you see my gardens, I love to have things just falling over the sides of the garden. So as nasturtiums grow, they create this kind of vining nature with them, so you can grow them off the sides of the beds, which totally maximizes the amount of growing space you have on the inside. They also can serve as a trap crop. So there are bugs that love to go to nasturtiums that'll go there instead of going to the crops that you want to eat more. And then finally, the entire thing is edible. So the leaves are edible, the stems are edible, the flowers are edible, and even the seeds are edible. So I've seen people make like capers out of nasturtium seeds, which I think is so cool. I'm not gourmet enough to do that, but if you are, it's pretty fun to realize that each part of this plant is edible. One thing that I learned the hard way is that nasturtiums are actually not frost hardy. So we actually just had frost here in my garden this morning. Not a hard frost, but when I came out to run early this morning, there was frost on the grass. And thankfully it wasn't too hard of a frost, but when there is a heavy frost, nasturtium will not like it. So I've had nasturtium that was growing really well. In early spring, I kind of took my chances. It always says to plant after frost. Like here it says plant 1 to 2 weeks after your average last frost date. But I always like to push that because this is a salad green. So I like having it growing with my other salad greens. So I've done that in past seasons only to lose the plant when we had a hard frost. So just something to keep in mind. What I'm doing this year, I waited. I actually snuck a bunch of seeds in that are growing. I'll have to show you them in the garden. But I waited to plant the majority of my nasturtiums now, well, we had frost this morning, but we're kind of past the frost date here. We're at like the second full week of May. So before I scarify these, let me just show you a couple of the types I'm going to be growing this year. So this one is called mahogany. It's this beautiful deep red color. It says mahogany's rich color is reminiscent of gleaming antique furniture. Deep red flowers attract bumblebees and blend beautifully in any planting. So this one says, again, plant 1 to 2 weeks after your average last frost date. But mild climates, like for my clients in Houston, they grow these all winter long. And it says this, plant them in the fall for winter bloom. So in Houston, we grow these in our gardens throughout the winter, which is so awesome. These are not recommended to be started indoors. They do not transplant well. So this is the first kind, the mahogany. The next kind, the one I already opened, is this beautiful Fiesta blend. So it's got peach and yellow and orange. Same directions for this one. This is a spicy feast of color with flowers in orange yellow and orange peach bicolors. You know, a fun thing to know about these too is you can plant them in mild climates in the fall, and if you're in a frost-free area, these can actually be perennial plants, meaning they can keep going on and on and on. So in Houston, in the years where we did not have a frost in the winter, we have clients whose nasturtiums just kept growing from season to season, which is pretty awesome. This one is called Trailing Single Blend. So they do have particular varieties that have been bred to trail more. So this one says their long trailing stems can be easily trained up a trellis or fence. So this would be a beautiful, awesome, my neighbor's dogs really like nasturtiums. So this will be an awesome nasturtium to grow like up an arch trellis or up a wall. You can find a lot of blends that are bred specifically to trail more than be more like a bushy type plant. This one I think looks beautiful. It's called Peach Melba. And this one says that surprise your family and friends with a salad adorned with blossoms of peach melba. Attracts pollinators and beneficial insects. So same idea here, same directions for almost all the nasturtiums. And then this is another peach melba. So my plan for these is to plant them on the edges of my beds. I've already snuck in a few, I'll show you, see if I can find them already going. So now we are finally ready to scarify these seeds. So nasturtiums, if you've ever grown them before, these seeds basically form off the flowers pretty early in the growth of the plant. And it's pretty amazing. As you can see, these things almost look like little brains or something. They are humongous, and they are so coated, right? Like they're covered by almost like a casing. So a couple things you can do. Number one, you do not have to scarify your seeds at all. You can just plant them directly into the ground. And I've done that. I'll show you how mine are coming out that I just literally stuck in the ground. But if you want to speed the process up, or if you want to just ensure that you get more germination, then what we're going to do is scarify these. Now, you don't want to do this if you're not ready to put these in the garden within 24 hours. So I'm going to scarify these today, and then I need to promise myself that I'm going to take time to put these into the garden tomorrow. Otherwise, no bueno. Because once you start this process, these seeds are going to be pretty tender, and as soon as they start to absorb water, they need to go into the garden. All right, so scarification is one of those things where you want to do a little, but not too much. So we want to remember that even though these seeds have this incredible strong coating, we don't want to damage it too much. And actually you can kind of see this one, I would say these two have already in some ways been scarified. You see how you can actually see the dark brown versus the white? So this one hasn't been clean, has got that coating, and these do not. So that's really what we're heading toward. We're not gonna go that, since like you can see that one's pretty much lost almost all of its outer coating. So we're not gonna go that serious, but we are just gonna nick it a little bit. And that's kind of the word you wanna keep in mind. All right, so I'm gonna take this, let's see if I can do this without filing my nails. So I'm just kind of rubbing back and forth until I start to see the brown seed. And you don't want to damage the seed. You just want to expose it a little bit. So what these plants have done, it's so genius, they don't want their seeds to germinate too quickly. So they've created this system that protects them until it's time to germinate. So the deal is these nasturtiums, they'll produce seeds, say in the fall. All right, you see that? So now we can start to see the brown. So as soon as I've done that, I'm going to put it into a glass of water, just like that. And I'll put these others that are already dark, I'll put them into the glass of water too. So these nasturtiums have created this system to protect themselves through winter, because as I told you, these are not frost tolerant plants. So if these nasturtiums, let's say they fell into the garden soil or just soil in general, and they didn't have this thick seed coating, and the weather warmed or for a short period of time, or the soil got really nice and wet, if they didn't have this seed coating, then they would probably start to germinate almost immediately, only to be covered, 3 weeks, a month later with snow or frost, and then would basically lose that entire next crop. And so what they've done is they've created this system where there's a lot to wear down over time, that it takes time for this to wear down, to get soft and to open up, so that the seed is exposed and the seed swells with water. Hey, Bueller. So the seed swells with water and starts to fully germinate. Shh, Bueller, can't be in my video right now, okay? So it's pretty ingenious to see how plants have these systems they create to make sure that they keep going, generation after generation. So it's one of the best things that I've learned to do as I'm growing in the garden is to think like the plant. So think about what the plant is trying to do. Think about the plant's goals, and if you work with the plant's goals, then you're gonna have so much more success in the garden. It's kind of like parenting, right? Like if you think about what you want your kids to do, it's probably gonna be pretty hard to convince them to do those things, like get off their iPad. But if you think about the things your kids want to do, and then try to talk to them in that way, like, hey, I heard you want some more time on your iPad, let's see what you can do to earn that. Then you can have a lot more success. At least that's what I'm trying to do with my kids. So plants are the same thing. If you think about the plant's goals, what does the plant want to do in the garden? And then you start gardening in that way, thinking that way, you'll find that you're working a lot less against nature and a lot more alongside it. So plants in general, their main goal in the garden is to perpetuate themselves, to create more and more of themselves. They have kind of a domination instinct. They want to make sure that their kind continues on the earth. And what that means 9 times out of 10, actually 99 times out of 100, is they want to make seeds. They want to make seeds, and they don't just want to make seeds, they want to make sure those seeds survive and see themselves to the next year in the garden. So that's what these nasturtium seeds are doing. They're just being sure that their type, their whatever, whether it's the Fiesta blend or the Peach Melba, they're ensuring that their type keeps going and keeps living. And this little covering on the plant, on the seed, makes sure that that happens. So when we scarify the seed, we're still working with the plant. We're just trying to speed up that whole process. So what would typically take a seed maybe 4 or 5 days to do in the garden, we're trying to do within 12 to 24 hours. So after I've done this, after I've filed down the seed just a little bit to expose the brown inner shell or inner seed, I'm gonna soak these in water for about 12 to 18 hours. Really just overnight is sufficient. So I'm gonna soak these, and then like I said, I have to have a plan to plant these immediately after soaking. So when they start to enlarge and take on water, those seeds are very ready to be put into soil. So you don't want to leave them in the water any longer than overnight. So that, my friends, is how you scarify the seeds. And now I'm kind of obsessed. I think I'm just going to sit here and do this for a while. Before we go, I want to show you what some of the nasturtiums have come up looking like that I did not scarify, that I just directly planted in the garden. And then I'll show you even how I'll plant one of these that I just took out. So we're gonna walk to this back garden bed. I've got just a few nasturtiums that are popping up that I can show you. So probably about, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I planted a nasturtium seed right here on the edge of the garden. I've got a mesclun mix growing here. It's a stir-fry mix. And I planted just one seed, and you can see how it's already grown. It's about, probably about, I don't know, 4 inches tall and just starting to leaf out. So we've got 4 leaves already and new leaves coming from the center. So like I said, we had a little frost last night and we didn't lose the plant. In fact, it doesn't look any worse for the wear. So it's a good example that you can scarify the seeds, but you do not have to. In fact, this is good evidence that it still works either way. Let me show you one more. This is about the same. So these were all planted. I kind of just went around the edges of the beds and stuck some seeds in there with the idea that I'm gonna grow these over the edge of the bed. So there's another one, and I don't know, yeah, here's another one too. This one's probably a little tight with other plants. But that gives you an idea. Now let me go grab one of the scarified seeds and I'll show you how I plant it too. So it's interesting, you can see the ones here in the glass. I know it's pretty sunny. The ones that were fully exposed, they actually drop to the bottom of the glass, which is interesting. So you just take this out after waiting till overnight, and I'm gonna come over to this bed and I'm just gonna simply put it right here on this edge. So I've got some carrots growing, I've got some lavender, and I'm just going to place it right there and then push it under just about the depth of the seed, twice the depth of the seed. And just like that, I'm gonna do one on the other side of this lavender because I think that'll be so pretty to have nasturtiums growing on either side. So I'm just pushing it down, covering it up, and that is it. So that, my friends, that's how you use a nail file in the garden. So there are several other types of seeds that might need scarifying. One major type is wildflowers and natives. Those plants have created these seeds that need to be protected or that get protected so that they don't germinate too early in their location. So generally if you're growing natives or wildflowers, those are oftentimes, look it up, but those are oftentimes seeds that do like to be or can benefit from being scarified. So like you saw, the seeds will still germinate in the garden without doing this. This is just a way to speed up the process and to hopefully better ensure the fact that those seeds are definitely going to turn into full-grown plants for you. So that's how you do it. That's how you scarify nasturtium seeds. I hope you grow a ton of nasturtiums this season. They generally prefer warm climates, so warm temperatures above freezing, and generally not too hot, not over say 90, 95 degrees. So if your weather is looking like that in the coming months, then nasturtiums are a fantastic thing to grow in the kitchen garden. Thanks so much for gardening with me. I will see you in the next video. Be sure you subscribe to the Gardenary channel and hang out with us all season long. Thanks for watching.